"They fight like demons," shouted the Voraxian soldier as he scrambled away from the raging battle, his plasma rifle still hot from the futile shots he had fired at the relentless human warriors. In the chaos of the firefight, Roger Green led his elite human squad against the invading Gorn forces. Outnumbered but never outmatched, they tore through the reptilian soldiers with ruthless efficiency. Bullets cut through alien armor, grenades shredded scaly flesh. The dropship that had delivered the Gorn to the colony outskirts now lay smoldering, brought down by the humans' superior tactics and sheer tenacity. Among the wreckage, Roger's team found a cowering Gorn officer. They dragged him out and slammed him against the hull, rifle barrels pressed to his head. The alien snarled, but broke quickly under interrogation. The news he spilled turned Roger's blood cold. Warlord Solaris, the Gorn's most ruthless conqueror, was coming to crush the colony himself. Solaris had rallied a massive war fleet, armed with planet-killing weapons, ready to exterminate every last human on this world. The captured officer spoke of the coming onslaught with glee, even as he bled in the dirt. Roger raced back to the colony's command center. The shaken faces of his superiors and the colony's leaders told him they already knew. Their world, one small bastion of human civilization on this frontier, stood on the razor's edge between survival and obliteration. This colony was more than just a home. It was a vital foothold in Gorn space, a supply line that fed humanity's war effort. If Solaris took it, he could cut off human forces across the sector. The fragile lights of human expansion would start going dark. This colony had to hold no matter the cost. As they planned a desperate defense, Roger saw faces of all colors and creeds, united by the same iron determination. These colonists had come from every walk of life on Earth to build a new home among the stars. They would not let these alien monsters take it without a fight. Roger's CO, a scarred old veteran named Jack Hawkins, pulled him aside. Grim lines were etched into Hawkins's face as he briefed Roger on a do-or-die mission. Infiltrate Solaris's dreadnought, bring down the shields, give the human fleet a fighting chance against the warlord's planet-cracker cannons. Roger breathed deep. He'd fought the Gorn from one end of the galaxy to the other, but this was something else. The fate of the colony, maybe the fate of the whole war, would hang on this. Failure was not an option. As the massive Gorn armada began to fill the sky, Roger assembled his strike team. He could only hope that their courage and skill would be enough. No margin for error. No second chances. Just one last all-or-nothing shot to stop Solaris in his tracks and save their world from annihilation. The battle for the survival of the human race was on. Roger and his team were ready to fight like demons. The dropship's cloaking device hummed to life as Roger and his elite strike team streaked toward the colossal Gorn command ship looming in the blackness of space. They crept closer, undetected by the enemy's sensors. Roger checked his weapons, plasma rifle fully charged, frag grenades primed. His team was armed to the teeth and ready to unleash hell. The shuttle latched onto the warship's hull like a parasitic wasp. Cutting torches sliced through metal until the team could slip inside, into the serpentine maze of corridors. They moved fast and low, hugging the walls. A Gorn soldier rounded the corner and caught a faceful of rifle butt before he could even hiss. Roger put 2 plasma bolts through his scaly head to make sure he stayed down. Fighting erupted all around them, plasma and tracers crisscrossing in the tight passageways. The humans were outnumbered 20-1, but with superior position and relentless aggression, they cut the Gorn down. An alien barrel poked around a doorway, only to be severed by Roger's monomolecular combat knife. Resistance intensified the deeper they pushed. The team split, half of them holding the rear guard while Roger led the charge toward the weapons bay. They breached and cleared compartments one by one, leaving Gorn corpses heaped in their wake. The ship's grated decks grew slippery with blood and viscera. Finally, they reached the weapons control center, a cavernous chamber studded with reactor coils and pulsing conduits. Roger's demolitions expert went to work rigging the explosives while the team fanned out to guard the room. That's when Solaris himself appeared, a towering reptilian dripping with cybernetic combat implants and eyes seething with malice. He pounced at Roger, and the two titans clashed in a whirlwind of razor claws and hammering fists. Below, on the besieged colony, the sky lit up as the Gorn fleet commenced orbital bombardment. Jack Hawkins rallied the defenders, directing the colony's surface-to-space batteries to return fire, even as buildings crumbled around them. Civilians and soldiers alike manned the colony's perimeter, beating back Gorn landing parties with jury-rigged weapons and sheer defiance. On the Gorn command ship, Roger smashed a steel forearm into Solaris's jaw, shattering teeth. The warlord reeled back but lashed out with his tail, slamming Roger against a bulkhead. As darkness crept into Roger's vision, Solaris gloated that this attack was anticipated, that the Gorn had one last secret weapon to annihilate the humans once and for all. Roger staggered to his feet and put his fist straight through Solaris's skull, spattering the wall with brain matter. "Not today!" he snarled. He sounded the withdrawal, and his team raced back to their shuttle. As they blasted away from the ship, the demolition charges detonated, engulfing the Gorn vessel in a miniature supernova. But Solaris's dying words haunted Roger as he descended back to the embattled colony. He made groundfall amidst the chaos of the main battle and sprinted toward the command bunker, screaming into his comlink for Hawkins. He had to warn them. A deep boom shook the earth, louder than any artillery. Roger skidded to a stop, looking up in disbelief at the behemoth that materialized from the smoke and flames. It was a bipedal war machine, 5 stories tall, filled with guns and missile pods. And there, visible in the transparent cockpit canopy, sat Solaris, still alive, burnt and bloody but grinning savagely as his mech suit smashed through the human lines. "Fall back!" Roger bellowed. "Fall back now!" He watched in horror as the mech's superheated fléchette cannons scythed through human and Gorn alike, leaving its own troops as broken as the human defense. Solaris was here to annihilate all resistance, regardless of the cost to his own forces. Soldiers and civilians scattered like ants before the metal monster's onslaught. Their weapons bounced uselessly off its hardened hull. Walls crumbled, and vehicles exploded with each earth-shaking step. The mech was an extinction event unto itself, and it had broken straight through to the colony's heart. Roger felt a hand grip his shoulder. It was Hawkins, his face streaked with sweat and soot. "That thing's got a neutron shield," the old soldier spat. "It'll take a miracle to crack it." "I don't believe in miracles," Roger growled. "I believe in good men making their own luck, and I've got a plan." He outlined his bold strategy, Hawkins nodding along grimly. It would take impeccable timing, a few well-placed demo charges, and a whole lot of guts, but it was their only shot. Roger grabbed a jump jet pack and sprinted toward the marauding mech, barking orders into his comlink as he went. He called in every soldier, every civilian that could still hold a gun, directing them like a maestro of mayhem. They laid down a blistering barrage from all sides, peppering the mech with rockets and plasma fire, not to damage it, but to keep Solaris's attention squarely ahead. Then, at Roger's signal, demo charges erupted behind the mech, collapsing a building into its path. The machine stumbled as it wheeled around to return fire, and that half-second loss of balance was all Roger needed. He kicked his jump jets to max burn and hurtled up onto the mech's back, mag locking himself to its hull. The mech bucked and spun, trying to throw him, but Roger held on, clambering hand over hand toward the cockpit. He primed a breaching charge and slammed it against the canopy, then leapt clear a microsecond before it blew. Atmosphere exploded from the breach, and Roger plummeted through the swirling wind towards the shattered canopy, landing boot first on Solaris's chest. The two enemies grappled in the tight confines of the violently pitching cockpit, claws and fists and knees smashing against metal and flesh. Solaris was strong, monstrously strong. But Roger had surprise, momentum, and a reservoir of furious defiance that could move mountains. He drove a knee into the warlord's shattered ribs, then jammed his hands around Solaris's scaly throat and wrenched with all his might. Bone crunched, vertebrae popped, and with a wet, tearing sound, Solaris's head came free in Roger's hands. He kicked the warlord's corpse out through the gaping hole where the canopy had been. The mech, suddenly pilotless, staggered drunkenly for a few steps, then slowly toppled forward with earth-shaking finality. It hit the ground and lay still, smoke rising from rents in its hull, the light in its sensors flickering and dying. Roger dragged himself from the wreckage, bruised and bloody but still standing. He looked out over the shattered colony, the burning buildings, the bodies of human and Gorn alike. But there, on the horizon, the first Gorn dropships were rising into the sky. They had seen their mech fall, their warlords slain. The Gorn were in full retreat. A ragged cheer went up from the human defenders. It started small, but grew until it was a thunderous roar of defiance and triumph that shook the heavens. They had done it. Despite the challenges, through blood and fire and sheer unstoppable drive, they had held the line. The colony and humanity's foothold among the stars would endure. Roger surveyed the devastation around him. Bodies of humans and Gorn littered the colony's streets. Buildings smoldered, reduced to rubble. The air reeked of smoke and death. "We won, but at what cost?" he muttered. A hand clasped his shoulder. It was Hawkins, his face etched with exhaustion. "No time to dwell on it, son. We've got work to do." Roger nodded grimly. "What's the situation?" "Bad. Defenses are shot to hell. We need reinforcements and supplies ASAP. There's an Allied outpost 2 systems over. I need you to lead a team there." "Consider it done," Roger replied. He assembled a small squad of his most trusted soldiers. They boarded a battered but functional transport ship and blasted off into the void. The journey was tense. Debris from destroyed ships cluttered their path. Twice they had to evade Gorn patrols. As they approached a desolate moon, proximity alarms blared. A Gorn cruiser limped into view, its hull scarred from battle. "Evasive maneuvers!" Roger barked. The pilot jinked hard, narrowly avoiding a volley of plasma fire. Roger manned the guns, returning fire. His shots struck true, crippling the Gorn ship's engines. They thought they were in the clear when sudden impacts rocked their transport. A squad of Gorn fighters had ambushed them from behind an asteroid. "We're hit! Controls are sluggish!" the pilot shouted. "Find us somewhere to set down. We'll have to continue on foot," Roger ordered. They crash-landed on a rocky planetoid. As they stumbled from the wreckage, plasma bolts whizzed past. The Gorn were in pursuit. Roger's team took cover behind boulders, trading fire with the aliens. It was a brutal firefight. Roger saw 2 of his men fall, their chests blown open by Gorn weapons. They were pinned down when Roger heard a sound that chilled his blood, human screams. "Push forward," he commanded. They fought their way through the Gorn lines, following the cries. In a nearby cavern, they found a horrific scene. Humans were strapped to tables, surrounded by strange machinery. Gorn scientists loomed over them, wielding vicious-looking instruments. Roger's team opened fire, cutting down the Gorn before they could react. As they freed the prisoners, one of them, a woman with haunted eyes, grabbed Roger's arm. "You don't understand," she wheezed. "This isn't just about conquest. They're experimenting on us, mixing our DNA with other species. They want to create the perfect warriors." Roger's blood ran cold as the implications sunk in. This changed everything. They continued their journey, fighting through more Gorn patrols. Roger's team grew smaller with each engagement, but they pressed on, driven by the need to warn others of the Gorn's true plans. Finally, they reached the Allied outpost, but instead of safety, they found more chaos. The base was under siege by a massive Gorn force. As they approached, a new group of warriors joined the fray, reptilian creatures fighting alongside the humans. These were the Voraxians, fierce allies in the war against the Gorn. Roger linked up with the outpost's commander, a grizzled Voraxian named Sarek. "We're barely holding on," Sarek hissed. "Their leader, Kragoth, has some new bioweapon. If it's unleashed, entire species could be wiped out." Roger's face hardened. "Not if we stop him first." Together, they formulated a plan. While the Voraxians launched a frontal assault, Roger would lead a small team to infiltrate the Gorn command center and take out Kragoth. The battle was fierce. Roger fought his way through waves of Gorn soldiers, his rifle running hot. He saw Voraxians tearing into Gorn with tooth and claw, their savage fury a match for the aliens' technological superiority. At last, Roger reached the command center. There stood Kragoth, holding a canister of sickly green liquid, the bioweapon. "It's over, human," Kragoth snarled. "One drop of this and your entire species is doomed." Roger raised his rifle. "Not today, you won't." What followed was a desperate struggle. Roger and Kragoth traded blows, grappling for control of the bioweapon. Just as Kragoth was about to unleash it, a Voraxian warrior burst through the door, tackling the Gorn leader. In the confusion, Roger snatched the canister and smashed it on the ground. The bioweapon harmlessly evaporated. With their leader captured and their secret weapon destroyed, the remaining Gorn forces retreated. The outpost was saved. As the dust settled, Roger met with Esrek and the human commanders. They had won this battle, but the war was far from finished. "We know their plans now," Roger said. "We have to strike back before they can create their hybrid army." The others nodded in agreement. The real fight was just beginning. Roger stood before the assembled forces of humanity and their Voraxian allies. The air crackled with tension as he laid out their mission. Intel from Kragoth pinpoints a major Gorn facility deep in their territory. "We hit it hard. We hit it fast. Our goal, shut down their cloning and hybridization labs." He turned to Esrek, the Voraxian commander. "Your warriors will spearhead the assault. We need your strength and speed." Esrek nodded, mandibles clicking. "We hunger for Gorn blood." The journey pushed their skills to the limit. Asteroid fields loomed before them, treacherous and unforgiving. Gorn patrols prowled the void. Roger's voice rang out over the comms. "Evasive maneuvers! Use the rocks for cover!" Human and Voraxian pilots wove between chunks of space debris, their nimble craft dancing around the lumbering Gorn ships. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. A Gorn transport lumbered into view. Roger saw their chance. "All units form up on me. We're taking that ship." They struck like lightning. Voraxian boarding parties ripped through the hull as Roger led a team to the bridge. The Gorn put up a fierce fight, but fell to the attackers' swift brutality. Roger gripped the controls of the captured vessel. "Everyone in. We've got our Trojan horse." They approached the Gorn facility, a sprawling monstrosity of metal and malice. Roger's stolen codes got them through the outer defenses. Inside, chaos erupted. Roger split his forces. "Team 1, with me. We secure the labs. Team 2, take out their power and defenses." The corridors rang with the sound of battle. Gorn defenders fought savagely to protect their work, but the strike team pushed forward relentlessly. They breached the main lab. The sight within made even hardened soldiers pause. Stasis pods lined the walls, filled with twisted amalgamations of human and alien flesh. "By all the gods!" a Voraxian hissed. Roger forced himself to focus. "Download everything. We need proof of what they're doing here." As his team worked, an alarm blared. The sabotage team had succeeded. Roger called in the fleet for extraction. But the Gorn had one last, horrifying surprise. The far doors burst open and nightmares poured through. Hulking monstrosities, part Gorn, part human, part things Roger couldn't even name. "Fall back," he roared. The hybrids tore through their lines. Conventional weapons barely slowed them. Roger watched in horror as they shrugged off hits that would have dropped a normal Gorn. They retreated deeper into the facility, using their knowledge of the layout to buy precious seconds. Roger's mind raced. They needed a plan, fast. Inspiration struck as they neared the cloning chamber. "Everyone in, now!" As the last of his team made it through, Roger slammed the blast doors. He turned to the facility's control panel. "Starting self-destruct sequence. We've got 2 minutes." They ran, the howls of the hybrids echoing behind them. The countdown ticked away as they fought their way to the extraction point. Roger was last aboard the shuttle as it blasted free of the doomed facility. Behind them, a massive explosion lit up space. As they regrouped with the fleet, the magnitude of what they'd discovered sank in. This was just one facility. How many more were out there? Roger looked out at the stars, his face grim. The real war was just beginning. Roger's eyes snapped open as the emergency klaxons blared through the ship. He sprinted to the bridge, his heart pounding. The tactical display showed a nightmare unfolding. "Status report," he barked. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew over her console. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Gorn fleet. They're bombarding Voraxia with something we've never seen before." Roger leaned in, studying the readouts. His blood ran cold as he realized the implications. It's a bioweapon. They're trying to render the entire planet uninhabitable. He turned to his communications officer. "Get me a direct line to the Voraxian High Command. Now." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scarred visage of Supreme Commander Zraknar. The Voraxian's eyes were wide with barely contained panic. "Roger, the Gorn, they've gone mad. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying in the streets." Roger's eyes sharp. "We're coming in hot, Zraknar. Hold on as long as you can. We'll evacuate as many as possible." The ship shuddered as it plunged through Voraxia's atmosphere. Through the viewports, Roger saw green pustules of bioweapon burst against the planet's surface, spreading sickly tendrils across once vibrant landscapes. They touched down in what used to be the capital's central plaza. Roger led the charge down the ramp, plasma rifle at the ready. The scene that greeted them was hell incarnate. Voraxians writhed on the ground, their scales melting, flesh sloughing off in liquefied chunks. The air reeked of decay and chemicals. In the distance, Gorn dropships disgorged waves of troops, moving in to mop up any survivors. "Fan out," Roger ordered his team. "Get everyone you can to the evac ships. Move!" They fought their way through the chaos, blasting Gorn soldiers and dragging terrified Voraxian civilians to safety. Roger saw a group of Voraxian warriors, led by Zraknar himself, holding a defensive line against the Gorn advance. "Zraknar!" Roger called out. "We need to fall back. The planet's lost." The Voraxian commander turned, his eyes blazing with fury and anguish. "No! We will die here, defending our home." Roger grabbed his arm. "Your people need you alive. Come with us. Fight another day." For a moment, Zraknar hesitated. Then he shook his head. "Go, my friend. We'll buy you time." Roger's throat tightened as he realized the finality of the moment. He clasped Zraknar's forearm in a warrior's grip. "It's been an honor." As the last evacuation ships lifted off, Roger watched from the viewport as Voraxia, once a jewel of a world, crumbled under the Gorn onslaught. The bioweapon spread like a cancer across the surface, leaving only death in its wake. Beside him, a young Voraxian refugee pressed her hand against the glass, keening softly as her homeworld died before her eyes. Roger placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice barely above a whisper. "We'll make them pay for this, I swear it."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.